Tom clicked the remote to present his speech on integrity. Instead, the ballroom screen filled with a hotel receipt, a room number, and a photo of him kissing another woman near an elevator. I had imagined that moment so many times I thought I'd feel triumphant when it came. Instead, I felt calm, almost tired, like a woman finally setting down a heavy box she'd carried too long. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 weeks earlier, on a Tuesday in April, I was standing in the parking lot of a CVS in Plano, Texas, staring at a white prescription bag with my husband's name on it. Tom Mercer had forgotten his blood pressure medication again. We'd been married 31 years. I knew his habits the way some people know weather patterns. He forgot pills, left wet towels on hardwood floors, bought expensive gadgets he used twice, and told stories in a way that always made him look slightly taller than reality. At 57, Tom still cared deeply about appearances. Crisp shirts, white teeth, expensive watches bought on installment plans. He worked as a regional sales manager for a building supply company in Dallas and loved saying things like perception matters. I was 53 and had stopped caring about most forms of theater. My name is Linda Mercer. I handled payroll for a dental office in Richardson for 18 years before they sold to a corporate chain and cut staff. Since then, I did part-time bookkeeping from home and kept our life running. Bills paid, groceries bought, family birthdays remembered, furnace filters changed, thank you cards mailed, the invisible labor of marriage. Tom had texted me at noon. Big client meeting, running nonstop, don't wait dinner. Then, at 3:40, I found the pill bottle sitting beside the coffee maker. I called him once, no answer. Twice, straight to voicemail. Third time he picked up sounding irritated. What? You forgot your medication. A pause, then a sigh sharp enough to cut paper. Stop calling me, I'm in an important meeting. I looked at the bottle in my hand. I was trying to help. I said I'm busy. He hung up. I stood there in my kitchen listening to the deadline. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I got angry. Not shouting angry, worse, quiet angry. I knew where the meeting was supposed to be, Hilton Garden in Richardson near Telecom Parkway. Company often rented conference rooms there. I put the bottle in my purse, grabbed my keys, and drove. North Texas traffic was its usual mix of impatience and bad lane choices. Pickup trucks cutting across 3 lanes, someone tailgating me while I was already doing 10 over. The sky was bright and flat, that hard spring blue we get before summer turns cruel. I rehearsed a dozen speeches on the drive. You don't talk to me that way. I am your wife, not your assistant. Learn gratitude before you learn blood pressure control. By the time I pulled into the hotel lot at 4:12, I had settled on handing him the bag, saying nothing, and leaving him to feel ashamed on his own. That plan lasted 12 seconds. The lobby doors slid open. Cool air hit my face, carrying the smell of lemon cleaner and coffee. A business traveler rolled a suitcase past me. Someone laughed near the bar area. Then I saw Tom. He was standing near the front desk with a woman I'd never seen before. Blonde highlights, navy dress heels, sensible enough for walking but expensive enough to notice, maybe early 40s. Attractive in the polished way that says effort was involved. Tom's hand rested on the small of her back. Not casually, familiar. My feet stopped moving before my mind did. The woman leaned close and said something. Tom laughed. A younger laugh than the one he used at home. My phone rang in my purse. I looked down. Tom. Without thinking, I answered. Where are you? He asked in a low voice. I looked up at him 10 feet away, still smiling at her. At the hotel, I said. He turned, slightly scanning the room, not seeing me. Well, don't come in here. I'm in an important meeting. Then he kissed the woman on the cheek and guided her toward the elevators. I heard his lie through the phone and watched it happen in real time. There are moments when your body understands something before your heart can catch up. My mouth went dry. My fingers tingled. My knees felt hollow. I must have made some sound because a woman behind the desk looked at me sharply. She was around my age, maybe older. Silver hoop earrings, neat lipstick, reading glasses on a chain. Her name tag said, Marlene. You all right, honey? She asked. I swallowed. That man, the one by the elevators. She glanced over, blue tie. My husband. Her face changed not with shock, with recognition. She reached under the desk, pulled out a paper cup, filled it with water from a dispenser, and set it in front of me. You can cry now, she said softly or later, Elevators are slower than justice. I almost laughed. Instead, I drank. Tom and the woman disappeared upstairs. I sat in a lobby chair that was too low and too soft. My heart pounded while a television over the bar played muted sports highlights. A child complained about needing the bathroom. Ice clinked in glasses somewhere behind me. Life kept going. That offended me more than anything. Marlene came over a few minutes later. "You want me to call security?" "For what?" "For whatever version of yourself is about to wake up." I shook my head. "No scene today?" She nodded once like she respected the choice. I stayed another 20 minutes, long enough to hate myself for staying, and too stunned to leave. Then I walked back to my car, sat with both hands on the wheel, and stared at nothing. I did not cry there either. That night, Tom came home at 8:43 carrying the smell of cologne and restaurant garlic. "Long day," he said, loosening his tie. "Those people can talk forever." I was chopping carrots for a stew I no longer wanted to make. "How'd the meeting go?" He opened the fridge, grabbed a beer. "Good, productive." He took a swallow and smiled at me like we were ordinary. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," I said. And for the first time in our marriage, that word was a lie. I lay awake beside him, listening to the ceiling fan click every 7th turn. Around 2 a.m. he rolled over and put a hand on my hip the way he always did in sleep. I moved it off me and stared into the dark. My morning shock had hardened into something useful. I was going back to that hotel. I was back in the Hilton Garden Inn lobby by 9:06 the next morning, wearing jeans, a clean blouse, and the kind of face women learn to wear when they don't want strangers asking questions. The same lemon cleaner smell hung in the air. A delivery man wheeled in boxes of frozen pastries. 2 businessmen in golf shirts argued over mileage reimbursement near the coffee station. Morning sunlight spilled across the tile floor like nothing ugly had happened there 12 hours earlier. Marlene was at the front desk reading something on a clipboard. She looked up, saw me, and gave a small nod. "I was wondering if you'd come back." I almost didn't. "That's how I knew you would." She motioned me to the far end of the counter where no one else was standing. "You sleep any?" "Not really." "Good," she said. "Sometimes sleep delays common sense." I let out a tired laugh. "I'm not here to make a scene." "I know, yesterday was the face of a woman doing math." I leaned closer. "Was he here long after I left?" She adjusted her glasses. "I can't discuss guest details." Then she lowered her voice. "But I can discuss forgotten property in general." My stomach tightened. He forgot something. A folder. Left in the room. Housekeeping turned it in. She tapped the counter once. "Locked drawer now." I stared at her. "Can I have it?" "Nope." The word was firm but not unkind. Hotel policy. I hand guest property to the guest law enforcement or legal counsel with proper paperwork, not to wives with murder in their eyes. I don't have murder in my eyes. She studied me. Then maybe manslaughter. Despite myself, I smiled. "What kind of folder?" "Manila. Thick. Men only carry thick folders when they want to look important or hide something." I glanced toward the lobby doors. "What do I do?" Marlene slid a business card across the counter. "Renee Talbot, family law attorney, Plano, Texas." She helped my sister, Marlene said, mean as a copperhead in heels. "I've never talked to a divorce lawyer." "Then don't think of it that way. Think of it as talking to a woman who reads fine print for sport." I picked up the card. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Get facts first. Flowers and apologies are cheaper than honesty." I drove straight to Renee Talbot's office in a 2-story brick building behind a strip center with a nail salon and a UPS store. Real Texas romance. Her receptionist offered bottled water and forms. I filled in my name, years married, assets I knew about, assets I suspected, children, debts. Under reason for consultation, I wrote, "I think my husband has another life." Renee called me in 20 minutes later. She was in her early 60s, silver bob haircut, navy suit, low heels that meant business. Her office shelves held framed degrees, legal books, and one photo of her holding a giant redfish on a boat. "You're Linda," she said. "Come sit." I told her everything from the forgotten pills to the lobby to the phone lie. She listened without interrupting, fingers steepled. When I finished, she asked one question. "Has your husband ever made you feel crazy for noticing obvious things?" The question landed hard. "Yes." She nodded like she'd heard that answer 1,000 times. We can request that folder if it contains marital financial records or evidence relevant to proceedings. More importantly, we begin documenting now. Proceedings, I repeated. You came here because some part of you already knows. I hated that she was right. By late afternoon, after a flurry of calls and official language, I barely followed the hotel-released copies of the contents through proper channels. Marlene must have moved mountains quietly. Renee spread the papers across her conference table. Credit card statements. Restaurant charges I'd never seen. Jewelry store receipts. Hotel stays during hours I thought he was traveling for work. Then an apartment lease application for a luxury complex in Addison. Applicant Thomas Mercer. Expected move-in June 1st. My chest tightened so sharply I had to inhale twice. He was getting an apartment. Renee kept sorting. Looks like he was planning logistics. There were spreadsheets, too. Tom loved spreadsheets when they benefited him. One page was titled, Post-Linda Monthly Budget. Rent, car payment, dining, entertainment, support if necessary. If necessary. 31 years of marriage reduced to a maybe. Then Renee pulled out several handwritten pages clipped together. This, she said, is where ugly gets organized. At the top, in Tom's unmistakable slanted block print. Timeline. Below it, March 12th, Sayback Payne skipped dinner with her sister. March 18th, if questioned accuse overreacting. March 25th, move bonus to separate account. April 3rd, mention needing space. April 15th, more work travel. Then one line circled twice. She apologizes quickly when pressured. Use that. I made a sound I'd never heard come out of my own throat. The affair had humiliated me. This destroyed me. He hadn't simply lied. He had studied me, my habits, my kindness, my instinct to smooth conflict. He'd treated my decency like a lever. I sat back in the chair and covered my face. Renee waited. After a minute, I said I cooked for that man last night. Yes, she said calmly. I washed his shirts. Yes. I thought maybe it was one stupid fling. She slid the timeline toward me again. Men have flings. This is project management. I laughed once through tears because it was true and because if I didn't laugh, I might break. What do I do now? You do not confront him today. I want to. I know, that's why you won't. She handed me a yellow legal pad. Start writing every account number you know, every password you remember, every asset, every debt, every time he said something that now sounds different. I stared at the pad. I feel stupid. No, she said. You feel betrayed. Different condition. She leaned back in her chair. You married a salesman, Linda. Stop buying what he sells. That sentence sat in the room like a bell after it rings. When I got home, Tom was in the kitchen making a performance out of grilling chicken on the patio. Hey babe, he called through the open door. Thought I'd help tonight. He wore an apron our son gave him years ago that said King of the Grill. Smoke drifted in. I watched him turn meat with tongs like a suburban emperor. Everything okay? He asked. Fine. He smiled. You seem quiet. I'm thinking. About what? I met his eyes. Timelines. For the first time, something flickered across his face. Then it was gone. That night I copied bank numbers while he snored beside me. My hands shook less than the day before. Pain was still there. But now it had direction. By Friday I knew two things for certain. First, my husband had spent years underestimating me. Second, I had no idea how to meet another woman for coffee and tell her she'd been sleeping with my husband. I changed outfits 3 times that morning. Too dressy looked desperate. Too casual looked careless. Too sharp looked like I was coming to court. I finally settled on dark jeans, a white button-down low-tan sandals, and the pearl studs my mother wore every Sunday in Tulsa. The Starbucks off US 75, and Campbell was crowded with commuters, retirees, and people pretending to work on laptops. Espresso hissed. Ice clattered into plastic cups. Someone near the pickup counter laughed too loudly at nothing. I got there 20 minutes early and still felt late. Jenna Cross walked in at exactly 10 o'clock. I recognized her right away from the hotel. Same blonde highlights, same upright posture, same habit of scanning a room before fully entering it. She wore navy slacks, a cream blouse, and carried herself like a woman who handled problems for a living. She saw me stand and hesitated. Linda. Yes. She stayed standing. You said on the phone this was about Tom. It is. Her jaw tightened. Is he okay? That almost broke my heart for her. I gestured to the empty chair. Please sit. She sat slowly, purse in lap like armor. I had rehearsed 10 versions of this conversation. None survived contact with her face. So I said the truth. I'm Tom Mercer's wife, current model. She blinked once. Then twice. Number. Yes. No, he told me. I know. Her cheeks lost color. She looked around the coffee shop as if exits mattered suddenly. He said you'd been separated for 2 years. We had dinner together Wednesday. He said the divorce was delayed over taxes. We filed jointly last year. She shook her head hard enough to move hair loose from behind one ear. No, I've been to his condo. He doesn't have one. He said it was temporary housing near work. He was applying for one this week with money from our marriage. Silence sat between us while milk steamed behind the counter. Jenna stared at the table. Then she laughed once short and ugly. That son of a bitch. I didn't disagree. She covered her mouth and breathed through her nose. When she looked up again, her eyes were wet but angry. How long have you known? 3 days. How long have they? She stopped and corrected herself. How long have we all been in this? I took a sip of coffee gone cold. I don't know, but I have hotel receipts going back months. She closed her eyes. I met him last summer. There it was. A number, a season, something solid enough to hate. What did he tell you? I asked. She laughed again, bitter this time. That he was lonely, that he stayed married because you were fragile, that he felt responsible for your health insurance. She looked at me. You don't look fragile. I have excellent blood pressure. That got the smallest smile out of her. Then she opened her purse, pulled out an envelope, and slid papers across the table. Bank transfer confirmations. My stomach dropped. What is this? Money I loaned him. How much? She swallowed. 22,000. I stared at her. He said he had a short-term investment opportunity tied up in paperwork, said he'd pay me back with profit in 60 days. You gave him $22,000. I had savings after my divorce. Her voice shook now, and some money my mother left me. I sat back. This story had just widened. Why would you trust him with that? She looked embarrassed, then honest. Because my daughter starts community college in the fall. He said if the deal went through, he'd help with books and tuition. There it was, not greed, hope. I thought I'd come to meet a rival. Instead, I was sitting across from another woman who'd been fed customized lies. Jenna wiped her eyes quickly, annoyed at herself. I thought I was stealing someone's husband. I answered before thinking. No, he was stealing from both of us. That landed between us like a stone dropped in water. For the first time, we were on the same side of something. She looked at me carefully. Are you staying with him? I don't know yet. That means no. Probably. She nodded. What are you planning? I thought of Renee's legal pad, Marlene's face, the timeline in Tom's handwriting. I'm planning not to be handled anymore. Jenna leaned back. Good. Then she surprised me. No offense, Linda, but decent women like you are exactly why men like Tom get away with things. I raised an eyebrow. None taken. What kind are you? The recovering kind. We both laughed, and it sounded strange but welcome. For the next hour, we compared timelines. She showed me texts. Miss you already. Crazy work week. Wish I were waking up beside you. He had sent one of those while lying next to me in bed. I showed her the apartment lease application and the handwritten manipulation notes. When she read, she apologizes quickly when pressured, her face hardened. That line alone would make me help bury him. We're not burying anyone. Fine, she said, ruining his weekend. We agreed on rules. No yelling outside his office. No social media circus. No showing up at my house. No nonsense that would hurt Derek or Jenna's daughter. Truth only. Then Jenna said he's getting some leadership award Saturday night. I looked up. How do you know? I was supposed to go as his guest. I nearly choked on my coffee. At the North Texas Community Business Awards. Yes, at the Westin in Dallas. I sat very still. Tom had mentioned the dinner weeks ago and said spouses weren't invited because seating was limited. Of course. Jenna watched my face change. Oh, she said slowly, you have an idea. Maybe. Tell me. Not yet. She smiled for the first time without pain in it. I like you more than I expected. Same. As we stood to leave, she touched my arm. For what it's worth, Linda, I'm sorry. I believed her. Driving home down Central Expressway, I rolled the windows down and let hot Texas wind fill the car. 3 days earlier, I thought my life had split in two. Now it felt like something else. Not healing. Not yet. But movement. And Tom Mercer had no idea the two women he'd lied to were comparing calendars over coffee. The next week taught me something I should have learned years earlier. A dishonest man rarely panics because he feels guilty. He panics because he feels cornered. By Monday morning, Tom knew something had shifted. Maybe it was the way I stopped filling silence for him. Maybe it was the way I no longer asked where he'd been, which tie he wanted, whether he'd remembered lunch. Maybe liars miss the comfort of being managed. Whatever it was, he started moving fast. I logged into our joint checking account to pay the gas bill and found the balance down by $18,400. I refreshed twice, thinking I'd clicked wrong. Nope. Transfer to another account. When Tom came downstairs knotting his tie in the hall mirror, I held up my phone. Why is $18,000 missing? He barely glanced. Business matter. Our checking account is not your business account. It's temporary. You moved our money without telling me. He sighed like I was discussing weather. Linda, must everything become drama? That sentence would have worked on old me. New me set the phone on the counter and said quietly, "Where did it go?" He tightened his tie. "You've been emotional lately. I'm trying not to add stress." There it was, the script, same tone as the timeline notes. I looked at him and saw not authority, not husband, not provider. Just a man recycling lines. He left for work with coffee in a travel mug and irritation in his shoulders. I called Renee before the garage door fully closed. By noon, she had filed emergency motions and sent me 3 instructions, all in bullet points. She was the kind of woman who weaponized punctuation. By Tuesday, Tom changed passwords on the cable account, the home alarm app, and 2 streaming services. Nothing says masculine power like locking your wife out of Netflix. By Wednesday, he sent flowers. A giant arrangement of white lilies and roses arrived at the house with a card. "Sorry things feel tense. Love you always." If you've never hated flowers before, I don't recommend the experience. I called the florist and asked what they cost. $239. He hadn't bought me flowers for my birthday in 4 years. I set them in the garage beside paint cans. That afternoon, my sister Carol called from Oklahoma City. "Tom says y'all are having a rough patch." I closed my eyes. "Tom says a lot. He sounded worried about you." "Did he?" "He said menopause has you up and down." I gripped the phone hard enough to hurt. Carol lowered her voice. "Linda, at our age, you don't blow up a marriage over embarrassment." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "This is an embarrassment." "Well, men stray. It's ugly, but life goes on." There are comments that reveal generations of swallowed pain. That was one of them. "I'm not you, Carol." She got quiet. "No," she said finally, "you never were." We ended the call stiffly. That night, Tom came home cheerful. Dangerously cheerful. He grilled steaks, opened a bottle of Cabernet, and told a story about a client in Fort Worth who couldn't use Zoom. I watched him perform normalcy with professional skill. Halfway through dinner, he said, "I hate tension in the house." "Then stop creating it." He set down his fork. "You really want to do this?" "Do what?" "This suspicious, punishing version of yourself." I almost admired the nerve. "You mean noticing facts?" He smiled without warmth. "I mean pushing people until they stop trying." 31 years, he still thought my fear was abandonment. What he didn't understand was that once respect dies, loneliness loses its threat. Thursday afternoon, Derek came by unexpectedly. Our son was 29, broad-shouldered, sunburned around the neck from station calls, and always smelled faintly of detergent and smoke. "Dad here?" he asked. "Number." "Good." He sat at the kitchen table while I made iced tea. "He called me," Derek said. "Of course he did." "He said you're going through some kind of late-life crisis." I snorted. "That's rich." Derek looked around the kitchen, the room where homework was checked, fevers, cooled birthday cakes, frosted apologies made. "Mom," he said softly, "what's really happening?" So I told him. Not every detail. A son doesn't need hotel specifics. Enough. He listened without interrupting, jaw tightening the way Tom's used to, though Derek's face stayed kinder. When I finished, he stared at the table for a long moment. Then he said, "I grew up watching you hold this family together with duct tape and grace." I laughed through sudden tears. Duct tape. You know what I mean? He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Don't let him rewrite history. That sentence steadied me more than any legal advice. After he left, I cried hard for the first time since the lobby. Not because Tom betrayed me. Because someone had finally seen what I'd carried. Friday morning, Marlene texted from a number I hadn't saved but somehow recognized by tone. "Need 10 minutes, bring coffee." I met her at the hotel cafe. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside were printed timestamp records of room entries tied to Tom's stays, and still images from hallway cameras. Grainy but clear enough. Tom entering. Jenna beside him. Different dates. Different shirts. Same lie. "How are you giving me this?" I asked. "I'm not," she said. "You found it in a parking lot. Memory's fuzzy." I laughed. "You could get in trouble." "I'm retiring in 8 months. What are they gonna do, make me care?" Then she sipped coffee and added, "Also, your husband tipped $2 on a one-night stay." Morality aside, that offended me. I tucked the envelope into my purse. As I stood to leave, Marlene said one more thing. "What?" "He's being honored Saturday night. Ballroom B Leadership Award." "I know." She smiled slowly. "Good, wear something nice." That evening, Tom came home practically glowing. "Big event tomorrow," he said, checking himself in the microwave reflection. "Community leadership recognition." He wanted admiration so badly it made him careless. "You deserve it," I said. He grinned. "I know." When he went upstairs, I opened my laptop. Jenna had already emailed me the event program seating chart and one useful note. Tom brings his own PowerPoint on a flash drive. I stared at that line for a long time. Then I called Jenna. "Still want your money back?" I asked. "Oh, absolutely." "Good," I said. "I think I know how to collect." Saturday night, Tom spent 40 minutes getting ready to receive an award for integrity. I wish that were a joke. He showered, shaved twice, used too much aftershave, and stood in front of our bedroom mirror adjusting a navy silk tie like he was preparing for state office. "How do I look?" he asked. "Expensive," I said. He smiled, taking it as praise. I wore a black dress I hadn't touched in 6 years. Simple cut, good fabric, no drama. I did my makeup carefully, put on pearl earrings, and chose low heels because revenge is easier when your feet don't hurt. Tom glanced at me when I came downstairs. "You're dressed up." I thought I'd come support my husband. His face changed for half a second. Then the salesman returned. Seats were limited. I called the organizer. They found one. I hadn't, but confidence often saves time. He laughed too loudly. "Well, great." We drove to the Westin in downtown Dallas, mostly in silence. Streetlights streaked across the windshield. He checked his phone at every red light. I knew Jenna was already inside. The ballroom was full by 7. Round tables with white cloths, water glasses lined in neat rows, rolls in baskets nobody wanted but everybody touched. Men in suits, women in cocktail dresses, the smell of beef coffee perfume, and money trying to look charitable. A banner near the stage read, "North Texas Community Business Leadership Awards." Tom shook hands like a candidate. He introduced me to people who knew my first name only because spouses are expected accessories. "This is Linda. Tom talks about you all the time." I smiled politely and wondered which version. Jenna sat 3 tables back in a dark green dress, hair pinned up. If anyone thought she was odd company for a married executive, nobody showed it. She didn't look at Tom once. She looked at me twice. Tiny nod. Marlene, bless that woman, was near the service station wearing a banquet staff blazer over black slacks. She had no business being there. Which is exactly why she was. Dinner dragged the way award dinners always do. Salad, nobody finished. Chicken too dry or beef too soft. Speeches thanking sponsors for commitment, excellence, community partnership, and other words that mean less each year. Tom kept patting his jacket pocket where the flash drive sat. At 8:21, he was called to the stage. "Please welcome Regional Sales Leader, Mentor, and Community Advocate Thomas Mercer." Applause rolled across the room. Tom kissed the air near my cheek and strode forward under warm lights. He shook hands with the MC, accepted a glass plaque, and stood behind the podium. I watched him settle into the version of himself he loved most. Confident. Admired. Untouched. He began. Thank you. Leadership to me begins with integrity, doing the right thing when no one is watching. Even from the table I heard Marlene choke on a laugh. Tom clicked the remote. The giant screen behind him lit up. First slide. Integrity in leadership. Blue background, company logo, gold trim. He smiled and clicked again. Second slide appeared. A hotel hallway still image. Tom with one hand on Jenna's back outside room 614. Timestamp in the corner. April 8th, 4:39 p.m. The room went silent so fast it felt like pressure dropping before a storm. Tom turned, frowned, clicked again. Third slide. A screenshot of a text message. Stop calling me, I'm in an important meeting. Beneath it, another image, him kissing Jenna by the elevator. Someone at a nearby table whispered, "Oh my God." Tom stabbed the remote. Fourth slide. Lease application for Addison Heights luxury apartments. Applicant Thomas Mercer. Projected move-in June 1st. He looked out at the crowd with a face I had never seen before. Naked panic. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice cracking, "there appears to be some kind of technical." I stood up. My chair scraped loudly enough to turn heads. Then I walked to the stage. No hurry, no shaking. Just steps. Tom hissed as I approached. "What are you doing?" "Correcting the presentation." The MC backed away so fast he nearly tripped on a cord. I took the microphone. Good microphones do something interesting. They make even quiet women impossible to ignore. "My husband is right," I said. "This is about integrity." A few nervous laughs. I continued. 31 years ago, Tom married a woman who believed honesty mattered. Last Tuesday, he told me he was in an important meeting. I pointed at the screen. He was, with room service. The laughter came harder now. Tom reached for the microphone. I stepped aside neatly. "No, you've had decades." I held up a paper. This is his handwritten timeline for leaving me after moving shared money and securing an apartment. I read one line. "She apologizes quickly when pressured. Use that." A murmur moved through the room like wind through dry grass. Tom's boss, a heavy-set man named Bill Harmon, slowly set down his fork and stared at Tom with professional disgust. Then Jenna stood. Strong voice, no tremble. "And while he was planning all that, he borrowed $22,000 from me." Heads turned again. Tom looked at her like a man seeing gravity for the first time. "For my daughter's college fund," she added. There was no laughter now. Only judgment. Marlene stepped from the side holding a small receipt book. "And sir," she called pleasantly, "you still owe us for late checkout." That broke the room open. Even people trying not to laugh laughed. Tom's face went the color of copier paper. He tugged at his collar. "This is private business," he snapped. "No," I said into the microphone. "Private was the hotel room. This is consequences." Bill Harmon rose from his table and walked straight out of the ballroom without speaking. 2 board members followed. The MC quietly removed Tom's award plaque from the podium and carried it off stage. Tom looked around the room for rescue. No one moved. I handed the microphone back. Then I leaned close enough for only him to hear. "You were right about one thing." He swallowed. "Perception matters." I stepped off the stage. The applause started at the back. Then spread. Not thunderous, not theatrical. Better. Earned. Jenna joined me near the doors. "You okay?" she asked. "Yes." "You—" $22,000 lighter in the past," she said. "Smarter in the future." Marlene passed us carrying a tray she definitely did not need to carry. "Ladies," she said, "valet gets crowded after public disgrace. Might want to leave early." We did. Outside, Dallas air was warm and smelled faintly of traffic and summer coming on. I stood under the hotel lights and felt something unexpected. Not revenge. Relief. Tom was still inside trying to explain himself to people who finally had the right information. And for once I wasn't staying to help him clean up the mess. I slept better the night after the banquet than I had in months. No racing thoughts, no replaying conversations, no listening for a garage door or wondering who was texting beside me in bed. Tom didn't come home. At 6:30 the next morning, I made coffee in a quiet kitchen and stood barefoot at the window watching two squirrels fight over nothing in the backyard. It felt oddly symbolic. My phone rang at 7:08. Tom. I let it ring 4 times before answering. His voice sounded rough, smaller somehow. Linda. Yes. Can we talk? We've talked for 31 years. Don't do this. I already did. A long exhale. I was embarrassed last night. I almost laughed. That's what you're leading with. People were humiliated. You mean you were? He switched tactics quickly. This affects my career. So did your behavior. You blindsided me. I looked out at the yard sunlight moving across the fence. No, Tom, I surprised you. Blind was what you expected me to stay. Silence. Then anger. You made me look like a fool. You outsourced that job. I hung up. He called back twice. I turned the phone face down and drank my coffee while it buzzed itself tired. By noon, Renee had already heard everything through the grapevine. You're becoming famous in niche circles, she said. Wonderful. Also useful. His company suspended him pending review. I sat down slowly. Suspended. Turns out leadership awards come with standards. She sounded pleased. Over the next 2 weeks, life became paperwork. Statements. Affidavits. Account disclosures. The glamorous side of liberation is mostly toner and signatures. Tom moved into a furnished apartment near the tollway after Addison Heights rejected his application once the employment issue surfaced. Karma may be slow, but sometimes she enjoys efficiency. He texted often. We can fix this. You overreacted. I miss home. Think of our history. I answered only through attorneys. Jenna texted once. Got partial repayment today, thank you. My daughter starts classes in August. I wrote back. I'm glad. Take care of yourself. That was enough. Derek came by every Sunday those first months, sometimes with groceries, sometimes with tools, sometimes with nothing but time. One afternoon he found me standing in Tom's old home office staring at beige walls and a giant mahogany desk chosen mainly because it looked expensive. What are you doing in here? He asked. Deciding. About what? Whether to turn it into storage or set it on fire. He grinned. Try a third option. A week later he helped me carry the desk to the garage for donation. When we shoved it through the doorway, one leg caught and snapped. We laughed so hard I had to sit on the floor. Then I painted the room. Not beige. Not tasteful taupe. A warm cream with one deep blue wall. Tom hated the smell of paint. Said it lingered. Good. I opened the windows wide and let the whole house breathe. I bought an easel from a retired teacher in McKinney, a box of oils from an art store in Dallas, and brushes I didn't know how to use. I hadn't painted since college. Back then I loved color and had once considered art classes full-time. Then came marriage, rent-a-baby practical choices, and years slipping by in useful shoes. The first canvas was terrible. A muddy attempt at a Texas sunrise that looked like scrambled eggs over fire. The second was worse. The third had promise. I kept going. There is something healing about making a mess on purpose. The divorce finalized in early fall. Fair split of assets. Penalty findings for hidden transfers. Retirement accounts divided properly. The judge, a woman with sharp glasses and zero patience, looked at Tom's timeline notes and said, Well, that was unwise. It was the most elegant insult I'd heard in years. Afterward, in the hallway, Tom approached me. He looked older, not tragic, just worn down in places vanity couldn't fix. Linda. I waited. I never thought you'd do all this. I know. I did love you. I believed he meant it in the limited way some people love as long as comfort is included. I loved you too, I said. That's why it took me so long. He stared like he wanted a harsher ending than honesty. Then he nodded once and walked away. That was the last private conversation we had. Winter came gentle that year. I developed a routine. Coffee at dawn. A short walk through the neighborhood. Bookkeeping clients 2 days a week. Painting in the afternoons. Dinner whenever I felt like it. Silence when I wanted silence. Music when I wanted music. Peace is not dramatic. That's why people overlook it. Months later, Marlene visited carrying muffins from a bakery she swore was overpriced and worth it. She stepped into the old office and whistled. Well now, look at this. Canvases leaned against walls, bluebonnet skies, a half-finished lake scene, one abstract mess I defended fiercely. You made yourself a room, she said. Yes. She nodded. About time. We ate muffins standing up like teenagers. Before leaving, she pointed at a painting near the window. It was the best one I'd done yet. Morning light across an open field. That one's freedom, she said. I thought it was landscape. Same thing. Sometimes people don't break your heart in one blow. Sometimes they wear you down slowly. They ask for patience until patience becomes disappearance. They rely on your goodness so long you forget it belongs to you. The banquet felt good for one night. This feels good every day. If you're standing in the ruins of something you trusted, take one honest step, then another. It adds up faster than you think. And if this story stayed with you, pass it to someone who may need the reminder. It is never too late to reclaim your own room.